Vamos lá. Boa tarde, gente. Boa tarde a todos, a todas. Vamos começar, então, aqui, dar início ao nosso evento de hoje. Eu estou aqui um pouco fazendo o papel do professor Ricardo Fabrini, que infelizmente não vai poder estar aqui por questões pessoais. Estou, então, representando hoje. Eu estou aqui um pouco fazendo o papel do professor... Desculpa, deu eco no microfone aqui. Então, vou apresentar um pouco o grupo de estudos em estética contemporânea, que está organizando o evento numa parceria com diversos professores que estão aqui com a gente, com diversas universidades também. O grupo de estudos em estética contemporânea está comemorando 10 anos esse ano, então, de alguma maneira, bom, é uma alegria todos esses eventos e parcerias que nós viemos fazendo ao longo desses 10 anos. Então, deixo o meu agradecimento aqui a todos que estão aqui hoje, em nome do professor Ricardo Fabrini também. E vou passar a palavra, então, para o professor Pedro Russac, da Universidade Federal Rural do Rio de Janeiro, que foi o idealizador desse evento, acho que foi um pouco o responsável por nos reunir aqui hoje. Vou passar a palavra para que ele possa fazer as apresentações, explicar um pouco como vai ser o nosso evento hoje. Pedro.
Então, obrigado, Daniela. Bom, na verdade é uma felicidade muito grande, né, tá aqui agora, porque realmente é um evento, né, que mobilizou assim, muitas instituições, né, muitas pessoas. Então a gente pode citar, né, o grupo de estudos em estética contemporânea da USP, né, que está, vamos dizer, está patrocinando, né, está usando o canal do YouTube, né, do grupo da USP. Está aqui a Daniela, né, que é doutoranda em estética na USP, orientando professor Favaretto, faz uma tese sobre Rancière, justamente. O Gustavo Chatanier, né, que tem longa parceria comigo, né, em eventos ligados ao rancierianos. O Pedro Tan, né, que justamente acabou de traduzir o livro Tempos Modernos, né. O Pedro Tan é doutorando em filosofia pela PUC de São Paulo, né. O livro acabou de sair tá aqui o livro, né, a tradução do Pedro Tan, acabou de sair pela Edições -1. E vamos contar também com o Luiz Baez, né, que é orientando do Gustavo Chatanier, né, que é um grande especialista em cinema, né, que está nos ajudando também na parte, né, infelizmente aqui por uma questão de conformação, ele está no bastidor, né, mas depois ele vai aparecer também aqui, e também está ajudando a gente na parte técnica, né, dessa transmissão, né. O Luiz, ele é orientando do Gustavo lá na pós-graduação de comunicação social da PUC. E a gente tem aqui também a presença da Ivana Moncilovic e da Nina de Vroome, né, que fazem parte, né, do grupo, né, do coletivo artístico, se chama PhD in One Night. Né? A Ivana esteve envolvida, vou dizer assim, no projeto, né, que deu o aso, né, para a publicação do livro Tempos Modernos, né? Esse livro foi uma série de conferências que o Rancière deu na ex-Iugoslávia, né, nas capitais da ex-Iugoslávia. E a Ivana é da Sérvia, né, de Belgrado, e elas estavam tanto envolvidas, tanto no projeto de levar o Rancière lá para a ex-Iugoslávia, tanto no projeto de fazer o livro, que foi publicado primeiro em inglês, depois em francês, pela editora La Fabrique, e agora em português, né, pelas edições -1, com a tradução do Pedro Tan. Esse coletivo, né, o PhD in One Night, eles fizeram um filme, né, a partir justamente, né, da participação do Rancière nessas conferências, né, onde eles fizeram também oficinas e performances. o filme também conta com cenas, né, de uma performance na Bélgica, né, onde a Ivana e a Nina vivem, né, baseado em um dos capítulos do livro, que chama O Momento da Dança, e elas fizeram esse filme, e aí a ideia, né, é que a gente vai, então, passar o filme e depois fazer um debate, né, a gente vai dar a palavra para a Ivana e para a Nina, e depois aqui nós também vamos fazer um debate, tanto sobre o livro quanto sobre o filme. Tá? Então, Nina, Ivana, do you want to say a word before we project the film?
Nina, maybe?
Well, thank you. At first, thank you for inviting us, and it's a great opportunity to show this film also with Portuguese subtitles, which is also for us very new and exciting to present it for a worldwide public. So I'm hoping to exchange with you and also with the people who are watching now afterwards to talk more about the book and our work on the film. Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, maybe just a word. Thank you to Pedro's and all this fantastic group, and welcome now everyone to see our research and exploration. We will speak later a bit more after the film.
Okay, thank you. So, Gustavo, Pedro, vocês querem dar uma palavrinha também antes? Depois...
Não, eu estou animado para rever o filme.
Então, ótimo. Gustavo?
Vamos ver o filme, só isso. Obrigado, prazer, vamos ver o filme.
Então, Luiz, então vamos passar para o filme agora. Então, na volta, a gente continua com o debate.
There's one word which I would say is crucial for us, for me, is concentration.
Là, c'est le secret de l'iceberg, qu'il fait des combats, c'est aussi entraîné de...
Ah, c'est bien pour du coup.
On peut aussi imaginer à penser la révolution esthétique. What have we learned from fiction? What could we learn from abstract forms and uncertain knowledge about our uncertain present after learning from manifestos, programs, and manuals about our future? How could we learn from the present, from this moment? How can we live in this world or leave this world in another way? How can we love this world in another way? What is the social function of color today as conceived by Fernand Léger, a lousy soldier but generous thinker in the time after the Great Wars? Are we still in the war? Which kind of war? And if not, where we are all exactly? In what times do we live? Are we afraid of phantomas? How can we connect research and teaching, things that don't have anything in common, and think of what they have in common? Politics and aesthetics, war and education, cruelty of capitalism and lack of musical education in schools, revolt and logic, revolt and sensible. How can we connect the abandoned places of developed capitalism, abandoned promises of the left, and the eruption of people migrating from the zones without any free space left? How can we connect ideology and space? How can we not connect it? How could we use the void of modern ruins and human deserts as the new method to work with? Is future so simple as that? Is the only present in the present? Hearing Bach in one ear and Prokofiev in the other, finding Bach in Prokofiev, adding Rozevsky, finding Beethoven in Rozevsky, finding Maya Plisetskaya in Ivan Reiner. How can we live in between imposed temporalities and subjective interventions in time? Between the basement and the floor, the base and superstructure, between we have to forget everything and I remember all, between socialism with the promise of communism and capitalism without any promises. Between several dictionaries in our pockets, several postcards and several CDs in our bags. Toward fiction of time and fiction of memory. Feeling the gaps, the movements, the moments of transformation. could be the other ways of exchanging the values in the absolute capitalist world of today? The other ways of telling, listening, translating, watching, resting, producing and exchanging the knowledge, the sensing.
This is a painting by Carl Hübner, and it is made in 1844. This is very much a reproduced painting about the socialist art and the communist art. And here I read a little bit from Friedrich Engels, how he described this painting in the text called Rapid Progress of Communism in Germany, written in 1844. Yes, so he says, let me on this occasion mention a painting by one of the best German painters, Hübner, which has made a more effectual socialist agitation than 100 pamphlets might have done. All workers are very much following the logic of a gravitation. They have all their place, all workers. Every subject in these paintings are clearly defined, and their role is very perfectly happening in this relationship, whatever relationship there is in this painting. So when I was reading the first chapter of the Proletarian Night, I realized a small paragraph actually mentioning viewers, and that's maybe why, what kind of art is more appropriate to this definition of a class struggle, or I will not say class struggle, but this definition of a labor subjectivity, of the subjectivity of the proletarian. And I find the answer, I think the proximate answer is in Rancière's another text dealing with the cinema. It's a book called Intervals of Cinema, chapter on Gigaberto. Monument. Crowd. You just elevate out from the singular people, come back. It's all dialectical. No?
Yeah.
No.
Something missing is the industry, like cinema as industry.
It's not missing. Well, you will see now that too. Yeah. Like, here is a film strip, completely realistic. Here is a film industry, what we are talking about.
Yes.
Here is like how it is, films are separate, machines and stuff, how is it categorized?
Mm-hmm. Very nice program to talk, really.
This is Esther Schupp, a woman who was making herself filmmaker, cutting all the avant-garde things, including Eisenstein. Very interesting filmmaker.
Et bon, ce qui veut dire que tous les gestes peuvent être pensés comme étant homogènes. Bon, le projet d'un film comme L'homme à la caméra est de présenter une sorte d'homogénéité entre tous les gestes, bon, aussi bien les gestes du travail que les gestes du artistique, ceux de la danseuse ou de la danseuse, de la pianiste, du chef d'orchestre, etc. Et aussi bien sûr de l'opérateur, de la monteuse, du cinéaste lui-même. Donc, bon, d'un côté, on peut dire qu'on se trouve au sein d'un projet où l'art ne se sépare pas du non-art. Mais où l'art du cinéaste, l'art du cinéaste et l'art de la danse qui est représenté dans le film sont homogènes avec les activités qui sont humaines, qui sont présentées dans le film, et homogènes aussi avec les mouvements de la machine.
I mean, it's advanced kind of piece, but you know, you learn, and that's the language. This is like one of the latest versions, but actually the first piece was just a text. And anybody, anywhere can play it, because the only thing that we use are our ears. And it's very interesting, and you can do it anywhere, when you're outside. C'est rien, c'est difficile de faire une perception, comment de faire ça, comment de faire une musique comme ça, comment de exprimer une pensée avec ça, parce que quand vous jouez une pièce, c'est comme chaque performance, c'est une expression de pensée.
Actually, what I like in the idea of le maître ignorant, actually it brings the people to, well, the teacher, it's not only like a little play that you have to do, but I think it's to learn how to learn by yourself.
So our little thing in common is against some methods or non-methods, but which are also intuitively developed, and it's about it. It's also this kind of relations that we
I think what is interesting, is precisely not simply, trying to overturn, and we know, but it is not. It is not. The point is not, having the students, give the class, and the teachers, here the students, and as was. I mentioned yesterday, in a small group, what happened, in Paris 8 after the events of May 68 in France, what's the idea? Now the students, are the masters, the teacher have to just to keep silent, that was not the good thing, to just overturn, the relation. The point is not to overturn the relation, but to break it, to think that in the act of the person who is supposed to teach, and in the act of the person who is supposed to learn, there are several actions, and that the point is to dissociate it. And for instance, I was struck, by what you said, about the marks, the marks, it is not saying, you know, that now the students give the marks, you know, or give the marks to the teacher. It's never a problem, you know. But well, the student is part of the process really of giving himself a mark. And we all know when the person, you know, is asked to give himself or herself a mark, it is very, very rare that he or she gives himself or herself, you know, a better grade, but a better mark than the grade, but the mark itself, you know.
I can read this.
Yes, okay.
So as you say, interdisciplinary, it is not a matter of going besides the disciplines, but breaking them. My problem has always been to escape the division between disciplines, because what interests me is the question of distribution of territories, which is always a way of deciding who is qualified to speak about what. The apportionment of disciplines refers to more fundamental apportionment that separates those regarded as qualified to think from those regarded as unqualified. Those who do the science and those who are regarded as its object. I began by moving outside of the boundaries of the disciplines of philosophy, because the questions I was concerned with revolved around the Marxist conception of ideology, the issue of why people found themselves in a particular place and what they could or could not think in that place.
Well, I try to make I try to make a connection. Oh, I think I have already commented, you know, on what is in front of us, meaning that basically the separation between disciplinary fields, you know, in fact rests on a more fundamental, you know, separation between those who are the subjects of science and those who are the objects of science, and separation between those who know and those who don't know. And it is, of course, it is also concerned with what was one of my starting point, or from a critical point of view. So the idea of ideology, so this kind of circle of the theory of ideology, saying that, well, people are necessarily, you know, mistaken because they are at that place, you know, and at the same time, of course, that it is their mistakes or their illusion, you know, that keeps them in that place.
also actions, and actions are kind of words, are also actions, and actions are kind of words, are also actions, and actions are kind of words. How could we translate thoughts into the movements and movements into the thoughts? Learning geometry and mathematics through movement and contemporary dance. Learning geometry and mathematics through aleatory singing and experimental sounds. Learning language through the theater of words. Learning about the inexplicable through surrealist writings, collage, and other uncertain and unuseful knowledge. What would be the danger of poetry becoming an obligatory subject in schools? How to teach and learn about inexplicable of the life. Why is musical education no longer a part of obligatory curriculum in the schools?
Bonjour Guérin, bonjour l'histoire. Ça coupe pas. Se o mago brilha e ilumina. Não, vamos deixar assim. Se o mago brilha e
Will children hear and feel the world better if they really open their ears? Will the world hear its children better if it opens better its ears?
Cher beau-père,
Avez-vous bien dormi?
sauf votre respect,
Vous perdez la tête.
je n'ai rien contre vous personnellement.
Ce n'est pas moi qui l'ai tué. Fatal.
À l'imparfait de l'objectif.
Tout ce qui n'est pas écrit disparaît
Dans les plumes,
pour que justice soit faite.
je vous écris.
L'insaisissable.
Histoire de ma vie racontée par mes photographies.
Équinoxial.
Je vous écris.
What would be the new class of struggle? What would it struggle for? Is it possible to imagine a struggle from an invisible point of departure, something abstractly conceivable, present but not immediately consumable, using the marvelous register of the sensible that we all have in common, making many mistakes, using the marvelous register of the sand in the desert which we are all crossing together, drawing with our paths the new choreographies of emancipation, towards a poetic of fiction, towards an aesthetic and poetics of knowledge, sensible as a matter of struggles, the common as the fabric of our emancipation. Reading, critique de la vie quotidienne. Reading, de la misère en milieu étudiant, considérée sous ses aspects économiques, politiques, psychologiques, sexuels, et notamment intellectuels, et de quelques moyens pour y remédier. Reading Nuit des prolétaires, and working on translating them into the choreographies of the impossible. Communism is always about the impossible, about how to explain the inexplicable, an attempt to make a didactic exhibition about abstraction. Communism of the sensible has remained an abstract geometrical figure ready for continuous transformations.
bilirler. Yani eğer 3 kişi bir yerde toplandınız, Türkiye'deki yalancı mahkemeler ya da özel mahkemeler sizi terörist ilan edebilir.
I was just when I reached I passing the police van to reach the taxi square, and then I reach, and then actually my body react, and it means
Intuition.
because in democracy or there is some rule. In casino, there is some rule, and the case always win because they put the rule. And when I was there, I put the rule. It means I decided to who will win or who is not. This is okay. I'm told after the standing and not there. But it works. What was happened? I'm stand still there 8 hours. Let me try again. Walking in the space and try to stop together at the same time. Because if who is the first stopper, the police pick that. Okay? Just a game.
Bugünden beri burada bekliyorsunuz. Nedir amacınız? Bir öğrenebilir miyiz? Sessiz bir direniş mi yapıyorsunuz burada? İsminizi öğrenebilir miyiz? Efendim merhaba. Buradaki amacınız nedir? Şu an bir eylem var galiba. Sessiz eylem. Bir şeyler konuşmayacak mısınız?
What they have proposed is kind of translation of the book, kind of rewriting of the book, using other media, deconstructing it and reconstructing it differently. So it is properly the method of intellectual emancipation that they perform. So what now, remains to me is, to come back to the prosaic, if not stultifying role of the author who explained the book. But, of course, can also be viewed as a kind of emancipated performance, a translation of the performance we have seen into another language, namely the language of academic presentation.
Слушайте, говорит Ленинград из фильма «Симфония Донбасса».
There is supposedly also a return connection,
And supposedly Chaplin was very influenced also by Vertov and particularly by Sinfonia Dombassa. And supposedly his soundtrack for the modern times, which came in 1936, of course, he could have made a new picture, speaking picture, silent picture with the soundtrack, is sort of reflection of Sinfonia Dombassa, bands, noises, etc. Do you see perhaps another connection in Chaplin from?
Well, I think if there is a connection, the connection is rather ironic. Because in a way, Chaplin overturns the symphony of the machine, both on the visual side and also perhaps I'm not worked on it, so I cannot really answer the question, but perhaps also on the side of the soundtrack. But I think it's interesting because this moment when a certain utopia of the machine and the mechanical man is overturned, and probably at the same time a number of shots in Chaplin's modern times could have been included in modernist terrorist films.
From my point of view, the best thing, is that people discover things by themselves, of course. And I think that for me, really, culture, education, first of all, is self-education, autodidactism, and the thing that I most deeply feel are things that I have discovered by myself.
Well, and in such a way, the problem of the distant connection between the broken time of emancipation and the broken time of modern fiction is set up again. It was not solved, by this kind of continuum of the Vertonian times. And it is not incidental of the title of my book is Modern Times. Not so the title is the plural, and the book bears this title because precisely it tries to question the equivocal unity of the notion of modernity. And to do this, it showcased the multiplicity of forms of temporality that are co-present in one time, that are intertwining but also conflicting in the same present. And of course, if the book is called Modern Times, it is also because it is the title of a film by Chaplin, of course, which is itself a landmark in the history of modern art and of its relation to modern life. So thank you. I just try to give a very short idea of what is in the book.
Let us record the atoms as they fall upon the mind in order in which they fall. Let us trace the pattern, however disconnected and incoherent in appearance, which each sight or incident scores upon the consciousness. Let us not take it for granted that life exists more fully in what is commonly thought big than in what is commonly thought small. Let us make forbidden herbariums of our stolen life moments, an undisciplined and indisciplinary intersection between science and poetry. Let us use for it the shadows and lights from cinematic experiences, invisible thoughts of movements and immobility, and fiction from the politics of liberated territories. Let us once again surprise ourselves the way sudden lightning surprises the omnipresent night, or the way creating a herbarium in prison may have surprised the prison guards. Living in the world of the enemy is nothing but making a prison herbarium of the existing common sensorium and waiting for the right moment to take a fresh jump.
Então, estamos de volta, né, aqui, depois de assistir o filme, muito legal, muito interessante, né, The Poems from Which We Learn. E a gente vai fazer um debate, né, a gente vai chamar, já está aqui a Nina, né, né, Daniela, deixa eu colocar aqui a Ivana também. O debate vai ser meio em inglês, meio em português, né? A gente vai dar mais ou menos 20 minutos para as duas, né, que fazem parte do coletivo artístico PAG in One Night, né, que realizou o filme. E então elas vão falar por 20 minutos, depois a gente também entra no debate, fala um pouco português. Quem estiver assistindo, tiver interesse em fazer uma pergunta para elas duas, pode colocar a pergunta aqui no chat, que a gente transmite a pergunta. Well, I was telling that we are going to speak half in Portuguese, half in English.
Okay.
Thank you for the film. It's an extraordinary film. And I would like to hear you. Well, what's the relationship between the poems from which we learned with the book Modern Times from Jacques Rancière?
Yeah, I don't know. Nina, do you want to answer, or do we want to start?
Maybe you can answer.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because, I will say that watching this film now, I was really very excited again, because I could say, also answering to your question, that the relation is not only to this book, of course, it is a kind of recapitulation of the years of research, experimentation, friendship, singular translations of poetics of Jacques Rancière, friendship with him also somehow, and kind of what he calls also, and which is for me personally very inspiring, this kind of at the end every one of us is making in this process of singular translations kind of a translatory poem of translation. So the Modern Times book was a kind of a MacGuffin, as Hitchcock called it, kind of really just start of something that we start to recapitulate what we filmed, what we lived together. So maybe also, Nina, you could say, because you wanted to say before preparing, what was your first connection with the group, and also with all the ideas that we always shared inside of the group.
Yes, well, the film started as a captation of the book presentation in La Bellone in Brussels, and but we felt, as we captured this the interview with Ivana and with Leonardo and with Jacques Rancière, also combined with the performances by I forgot their names. Ivana.
Marta Coronado was
yes, and Marta Coronado and Diana and Lisa.
Grégoire Rousseau had also this kind of live editing, cinematic, kinetic sculptures, and Flora Bouteille. There several people.
Yeah. So there was already, it wasn't just a book presentation. It was already a performance in which many different disciplines and practices came together. But still, when we were making this captation, the film grew out of itself, just like the flowers that we collected in this book, in the film. They growed out of our hands almost, and we felt more and more that we had to add things to this world of ideas that was unfolding itself. Yeah. So the link with the book is, I think, also a practice, and is also related to the oeuvre of Jacques Rancière more than just only the book.
To all his universe, I mean, this poetics of knowledge, what he calls the method of equality. For me, it was also the practice of emancipation of everyone, including him, because as you saw him at the end of the film, he was dancing with his
Yeah, dancing with the hands.
Yeah, this is a very nice anecdote. Maybe it is a time to tell something about it, because it is really, we never spoke about it, how he said, I cannot do it. I cannot really I cannot dance. And then we were on this island in Croatia, ex-Yugoslavia, and then in this that was where Nina was filming so beautifully in this that was a kind of a abandoned cinema hall from socialist time. But days before this moment of gathering, he was saying, I cannot, and then he said, I'm incapable. I said, how it is possible? This is really a world that you never use. And he said, but really there is this kind of limits that everyone could. And then there was a kind of conversation that the dance is also dance with the hands. So he started to watch himself on YouTube, watching, because the proposal was everyday dance. So the gestures that you are like in Verto film, of course. That was a kind of basic inspiration for Lisa also. So he made it, and I think that is really great, and also the way how Nina captured it also.
You make a kind of montage. He's speaking with the hands. Maybe it's inspiration.
Yeah, we made this, and then there was a kind of, I don't know, Nina maybe could speak about this video that she made.
Yes, and we added this into the editing of the conversation with Leonardo too, and you can see that there's many different links between talking and moving, dancing and learning, things that are connected to our bodies and to our minds. So this is also a effective practice that we are working on for during our time in this collective. That all these Ivana is gone.
Oh, Ivana is gone.
That all these ways of relating to our bodies and to the world is also a form of knowledge. So the way Jacques Rancière moves his hands during a conversation, it can also be a dance, but it can also be a dance to. It can also be a learning process to make letters with your body, or to make geometrical figures, just like you see in this scene with the children. We did the project in Anderlecht in Brussels, where children were dancing geometrical figures, or dancing words or movements that were connected to letters and to language. So this is also a way of going over to have this indisciplinary approach to art and knowledge.
Yeah. And always in the movie, that relationship between dance, words, and images, that all the time in the film you can see that.
Yeah, that was our research that we made with Nina. It was really very. We filmed maybe 7-8 years all this material, and then we really found ourselves like dealing with found footage at the end, because we forgot completely what we had. You saw the scene with also Rancière in Ivry in Paris, where there was a kind of conversation with him, where we stayed 8 hours with him. There are many sequences that we discovered that we forgot in this abandoned university, Liège, where that was really one incredible adventure. But then
that's in Belgium.
Yeah, in Belgium, abandoned university, and it was completely forbidden to enter, but we just moved in, and then we made what we made, and we didn't know what were the materials. But I just want to say that with Nina, we made several versions of the film, because one of the idea was really to make this what Flora was doing very nicely in Helsinki, where Rancière was there just when during the polyphonic debates, there was one person who was making the live editing. So she was translating in her own language what was said. And so we started to do that also. There is a part of it in the film. But then we wanted to make many quotations from the Modern Times book. But at the end, we understood that film is not a book. So this is how we came to this version of film after finishing one very, really almost finished version with many quotations from the book and many typewritings and combining with the piano playing. But at the end, yeah, maybe Nina, you have some other souvenirs, because it was very difficult process at the end, how to finish this film.
You finished the film also with another or two other editors.
Yes, in Belgrade, because at one moment Nina said, but we will never finish this film. I mean, how we will finish it? Because of course the many episodes are not inside, and all the and many of our great experimentation in Finland, which is a kind of really our biggest achievement, are not in this film. So anyway, it was really at one moment we had to pass, and then it is always good to also find some other people who are fresh in this. So they just there was, I don't know, now watching this film, there are not many things, Nina, that we edit in it. There are just few little things.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to call Pedro Tan.
Yes.
So we are going to do that half Portuguese, half.
Yes, great.
If you want to make a commentary, and then questions to you. Right. So, Pedro, seu microfone está desligado.
Claro, bom que ele estava desligado antes, né? Oi, boa tarde para todo mundo que está vendo. Boa tarde, Pedro.
Boa tarde.
I think it's already evening chez vous, Ivana, Nina.
Yes.
I don't know.
But it's day, still today.
So late.
Yeah.
Oh, well, it's sunnier than here. I can say that. But I was no, I don't have actually much very defined question. I wanted just to comment on what Nina said about Rancière's hands while he was talking, because in the first part of the movie, Ivana, I think it's Ivana's voice in the voiceover. Ivana says something about thinking with movement, and I like to think that actually seeing his hands, it's like seeing his thoughts.
This is what I thought also. Yeah, thank you. Yeah.
I also thought that.
Another part in the film where Diana and Lisa are in front of the city of Paris, moving their hands to create a different soundscape, and next to it there is a sign which says looking is choosing. And then Ivana says that actions are kind of words and words are kind of actions, which is really something a very interesting idea that it's talking and acting are in a way interchangeable and are influencing each other and are closely related to each other. So in this film, there's several of these links that connect to that idea.
Yes, I think the film is very well connected, I mean, in itself.
Yeah. Thanks to Nina's editing, because it was really kind of, could you imagine, so different temporalities, spaces, experimentations to put them together. It was really a kind of
Yes, but there is a common, I mean,
yeah.
between
At
all
the end,
those things.
yeah, at the end, I think that we arrived, but there are some versions before. If I send you, we were just saying, oh, we will never finish this film. This is not possible. It was something.
Pedro, could you talk a little bit about the translate and the Brazilian edition of Modern Times?
Yes, I will. First of all, I've talked about it with Pedro, but also Fabrini and also Ivana. The Brazilian edition is one of a kind because it's based on the English version, which Ivana published, but it also draws a lot on the French version because it was translated by Rancière himself.
Yes,
so
incredible.
it's a very nice opportunity because he's a thinker that thinks in terms of translation. So when he is translating himself, there's something at work, and it was very difficult at times because the texts are very different. In the first chapter of the book, in one version he starts with Marx. In the other version, he starts with Anaximander. And then it's a completely different path to arrive. I don't remember which version got it in the end. I don't remember. But we have really a nice opportunity because that's the French one, Obrigado, Luís. It's a nice opportunity because in the third chapter, when he talks about Mallarmé, in the English version, which is the one Ivana has, he's commenting about the word émoi that Mallarmé uses to talk about the dance of Louis Fuller.
Yeah.
And he doesn't do that in French, of course, because it's in French already. So you have a French thinker commenting on the use of a French word intended for a foreigner. So it's a very nice experience. And as I told Ivana, and it was very nice to know afterwards that I was not imagining. Well, I was imagining things, but they had some connection to reality.
Yeah.
While I was translating the book, the third chapter, but also the fourth, the second half of the book, especially the second half, I had this impression that he's not talking about music, but there is music here. There is something musical, when he says about the wave and the movement at this sort of inspiration, experience. There's music in that, but it was an impression. I was translating, and then I talked about this with Ivana, and I ended up reading a text which was recently published, I think, in Edinburgh, which is called Rancière and Music, from, I think, João Pedro Cachopo was the organizer.
Our friend.
And it ends with a text from Rancière in which he says how important music is for his thoughts. So I was very happy.
Writing as composing, and this is very interesting. And there is always a kind of distant sound. And this is very, very interesting relation.
Yes, because he says it is something untranslatable, but I think this untranslatable in the sense of Barbara Cassin, when she says that the untranslatable is something you cannot stop from translating. It's always translation in course. He says music is some kind of untranslatable, which lends its energy to all the other processes. So it's It's kind of very pervasive thing.
And the music is also very present in our film, as you saw. I mean, in our presentation of the book, there was a big issue of a piano and having pianists there and the musicians, violinists, our precious researcher Diana, who is all the time with us with her violin. I mean, yeah, music was all the time in all our experimentations. Very important.
Yes, it's a kind of thread, I think, that encompasses it all. I have this impression.
Yeah, and dance also, the movement. Yeah.
Right. Pedro, we can call Daniela, no?
Of course, let's call everyone, and Daniela and Gustavo, and let's...
Right. Daniela, do you want to make a commentary? Seu microfone.
I'm sorry. Thank you, Nina. Thank you, Ivana, Pedro and Pedro. I'll try to make a comment in Portuguese first, just to a little bigger comment. Then I will try to translate briefly for you and make a little question about this little theme that I am going to talk, ok? Bom, eu queria só tentar traçar um pouco aqui algumas linhas. Um evento múltiplo, né, com a exibição de um filme, com o lançamento do livro, e, bom, essa reunião aqui internacional, né, mesmo no Brasil, reunindo todo mundo. Eu fiquei pensando, né, esse livro do Rancière, claro que ele retoma diversos temas, diversos assuntos, né, que ele já trabalhou em outros livros, mas se eu pudesse dizer alguma coisa que eu acho que ele trouxe, não de novidade, mas que ele aprofundou nesse livro, foi a questão de como ele trata, de como ele fala que existe no regime estético um tratamento do tempo, uma temporalidade diversa, e eu acho que ele aprofunda isso de uma maneira muito interessante. Então, e no final, ele traz, uma citação dele, em que ele fala um pouco sobre a ideia de que esse tratamento do tempo do regime estético, ele recusa aquela linearidade causal do pensamento aristotélico e coloca no lugar a ideia de uma coexistência de múltiplas temporalidades, e como esse tratamento do tempo cria, de certa maneira, uma comunidade de pensamento, né? Como a gente consegue criar uma comunidade de muitas distâncias. E eu acho que isso, de certa maneira, essa ideia consegue reunir o livro, a tradução do livro sendo feita pelo Pedro, esse evento que nós estamos fazendo aqui, e o filme também da Nina e da Ivana. Então, vou tentar traduzir um pouquinho isso para elas e colocar uma questão. Bom, Nina and Ivana, I was just talking a little about this idea which appears in this book of Rancière, but also many others, the idea of this different treatment of time, this coexistence of time, which refuses the linearity and the causality of the Aristotelian treatment of time. And somehow I think it appears, of course, in the book, but it also appears in the film, in many scenes, in many scenes of the film. So I was telling also how this coexistence of time proportionates what he calls a type of community of thought. And that is a community of distance, not of proximity, a community of distance, how we are configuring right now in this event, with everyone in a different country or a different state in Brazil. And I would like to hear a little from you how it was to think this treatment of time, this different treatment of time during the production of the film.
Maybe I will just make a very brief comment that for me personally, the really paradigm of Vertov in this book, but also in Longley in the work of Rancière, and what he calls a common sensorium that Vertov in the Man with Camera shows. It really was a kind of idea of how we could work on this community of temporalities and this equality of spaces and times, which are perfectly shown in Vertov film. So, of course, that was not the only inspiration, but that was really largely, as in book, that was also present in the film. And I could just say that we also work in the Academy of Fine Arts in Brussels with students, and what you saw, the little presentations from time to time from them, that was on this also topic of Vertov's one day with camera. So maybe Nina also could add something.
Yeah, it's a very nice concept, Daniela, of this this non-linear and non-temporal togetherness that is possible through art. And this is something that is also in the film. There's several times coming together, several places. And but still, when we are looking at the film, we are all sharing this space of the sensible together. At this moment, wherever we are in the world, wherever we, in which time zone we are. So this is something very, very fascinating. And you can also see it in the film that there's this justling of times and spaces, that they're sometimes indicated 5 months before or 3 years later, which gives these scenes like some linearity, like a hint or a play with linearity without really proposing a linearity. And it's like a hypothesis of linearity without pinning it down. So that is also what we did in the editing. There's almost like a 3-dimensional network of ideas and not a linear one, which makes it also really hard to make a film out of it, because it's the way film is a time art, but it's still linear time, which evolves from beginning to an end. And we also didn't want to end the film, so the titles go on, and there's never really an end until it's finally finished.
I just want to say that I liked very much this idea, Daniela, of community of distance. And this is also what we are producing, and this is some kind of as Nina said, we didn't want it to end the film, so this is also part of film somehow, what we are now producing, and I'm very excited about it, really.
I wanted to say that I don't know if he's outwardly rejecting the Aristotelian view of causality, because I mean, I have to defend Aristotle. I think he does something very beautiful with Aristotle, because I think he integrates both temporalities. I mean, the temporality of history, that he says that things that happen one after the others, with the temporality of poetry, which for Aristotle is the temporality of causality. And I think that in integrating causality, but also the événement, the happenings, the things that happen, he creates this space for the gaps, you know, like Daniela said, the gaps, which is exactly the space for creation, but also for the sensorium, which Ivana says beautifully in the film, which is filling the gaps, but also feeling the gaps.
Translated. I was following how you were bravorously playing with the words. Of course, I don't understand, but I was really maybe Jacotot method, but I saw that you in it. But Rancière calls that subjective intervention in time somehow. I mean, this gap. Yeah, there is a combination of temporalities. That's what Daniela, I think, mentioned.
Yes.
And there is this kind of, but refusing, of course, this completely linear, of course, idea of
The
time.
hegemony of, yes,
Yeah,
I think
Rancière calls it very nicely, hegemony of dominant time. I like that very much. You will never, on the first view, you will never not say that it was Rancière's thought, but yeah, he used this term even in the book, I think. Hegemony of dominant time, and then possibilities of reconfiguration inside of this dominant time. So appropriation of time somehow. Yeah, this is it.
Daniela, could you call Gustavo?
Yes.
Like a method train. They're just entering. It's so beautifully organized. There are wagons all the time with the new people.
Oh, well, good afternoon, everybody. Thank you, Nina and Ivana. Congratulations for your film. I'll try to speak something in English. And as Nina said, it's not a film about Rancière and nor about a book. It's a creation. It's not even a translation. It's a poetic of knowledge, as Ivana said in a moment, and I think that it placed the film in a unavoided, or no, not the film, but it makes Rancière's thought in an unavoided Nietzschean side, because it's an affirmation. It's always a creation. Even if he doesn't quote Nietzsche or Spinoza and all these references. And I think that you and the collective, the PhD collective, you in a certain moment you talk about a quest for the common, or the quest for the common in a large in a praise for the abstraction. But this abstraction, it's not a metaphysical one. No? This abstraction is the openness of the sensible, and we have several examples of this image creation, because by editing you make images show what they were not supposed to do. And when we have a cello and Tudanku, all of a sudden we can't see the cello anymore, and we have a red little light. And I remember at the Tudanku, la caméra stylo de Astrup, and then you have the children with recortar e colar, I don't know.
Yeah, making collage.
Collage. And wow, this is image creating. Cut and paste. Like the words. And this translation of the sensible, it's I think it's enormous, because when you talk about strike and how to move that thing that doesn't move, and then you've got léger, a picture with the colors. So I think that this translation that you made is always a creation. I would like to hear about what you think about this creation with media, creation with art. What do you think about that? It's rather a commentary than a question, but...
Yes, maybe it's that the process of learning and teaching, or that the educators, that we are all, because Nina was also in this school in Anderlecht while we made this paysage of words and theater of words with the kids, and many other unexpected sharing of knowledges in one very ordinary primary school. And then we went to the high schools in Finland, and when we are working with universities a lot. But what we really use is that, and what we claim, that art is knowledge, and there is a creation, and there is a process of learning is the creation. So this is what I wanted to say. Then I just give the word to Nina, and then maybe I will make some other comment later. But this is really in the heart of our process of practicing what we are now in the film just sharing. We are also practicing with many pupils, students, etc.
Yeah, you said it very well, Ivana. I don't nothing to add to that.
Really, but some of your experience, I think that it was very interesting in this primary school. How we moved the benches and how we made geometry through the contemporary dance and this collage of words. I mean, maybe just if you have some memories about it, I think it's always very precious to share, because it was, Gustavo said something very to the point. This is about to, of course, very, very fidel to Rancière's thoughts, to not be there very, or not to do what the people are expected that we are going to do. So this is always our principle working with the students. Yeah, maybe, I don't know if you have any.
Yeah, it was a very normal Brussels school, and we were invited there for several weeks to have a full afternoon, if I remember well, with these children, to do art classes. And they were not just bricolage, not art in a directional way that they have to make a result, to make a drawing or make some bricolage, some creation. It was about experimenting and about being free to discover things. And
that's intervening. I'm sorry just to interrupt you. We were intervening in French and mathematics. We are not supposed to give art. That was the main deal with the school. And that was what they were not expecting. What is it?
And I wasn't speaking French. I was only speaking French several times. So the children, I had to give them, I was giving them a class, a practice of making collages and playing with words. And as they were playing with words, I was too, and often they corrected me for my French.
That was beautiful.
I think it was very, very open learning process for all of us. And I think it was also for the teacher and for the school very interesting to see that some of the children really opened up so much, just because there was no pressure of an outcome of a work or like a learning outcome. They just were free to cut and paste, to write a story, to create a little theater, and to listen, to move their bodies, and to listen while they were doing all that. And as you see in the film, there's one little boy. I remember his name was Morpheus, very special name, and he was just only listening to Diana playing the violin. He was just completely absorbed by it. And as normally he always seemed quite uninterested in learning or in school matters. But then there was something that really sparked his passion. And there were other children too that were normally quite taken aback or not very outgoing or with a lot of inventivity, that all of a sudden created the most beautiful things and were really opening something in their relation to the world, I would say. So
yeah, and the teachers made this evaluation. They said it was like, but always, even in a high school, then in Finland when we intervened. But I remember from this school, Nina, where we were in Anderlecht, very problematic. I mean, very problematic. Let's say class. The children 10 years old. They don't really. They write French so difficult. I mean, with many difficulties, maybe even basic words. But then the teacher said it was like seeing upside down our class. the best students, pupils were lost, and those ones that we never hear about them, they were creative. And this is also what Gustavo said. So this is about creation. I mean, the children which were very, let's say, bad pupils, they just bloomed, as Nina said. They were blooming all the time. And this is what really is interesting in all our practices, in all levels of educational process, primary school, high school, and university. This method, with the creation in the middle of it, gives unexpected results. So I'm really extremely excited about this point of it. So for us, for me personally, these film poems from which we learned is also part of tools of motivation of everyone to use the process of learning and self-learning as a creative process. And this is, for me, the most precious thing about all this gathering and all our years of research, of self-financed work, of really, let's say, very curious experimentations, in which I have to say Rancière really entered. And this is very nice. And this is also what, Gustavo, you said. We didn't want to make a film because we had many, many moments with him. But this is not a film about him, of course. This is about what he initiated, or his Poetic of Knowledge initiated in our group, modestly, but then from our group to many other groups and classes and educational also institutions.
There's a question about in regard to this question of the children. So a little bit long. Can you see that, Ivana?
No, I cannot. I'm sorry. Maybe Nina, because I'm on the phone.
It's about the childhood. It seems that there is a damage in this question, since the political order seems to demand a sacrifice from a part of the children. To learn how to learn by itself, we need to subjectify this damage and reconstruct the way we deal with the time in our life, so we could experience the act of playing again. In which way art deals with play?
It's a large question.
But very, very, I will just briefly open it. I will say that it's really like an annex to Gustavo's comment. I think that it is really taking the self-learning or learning as a creative and research process. But when you say to the kids who are 8, 9, 10 years old, you have to create something or to research, or it is okay to be lost. This is what we are often speaking with the children. Then I think it gives great results. And this is where art really become the emancipatory tool. And this is what, from our now, I will say, 12 years of experience, all the evaluation of all educators are really just always beyond the expectation. So this is something which is very, for me, interesting as a practice of one idea. Maybe Nina, you could.
Yeah, and in the film, you can also be a little bit lost, and there's many things that you don't really understand when you don't know all the background information. There's a lot of hidden. There's a lot of ice still under the surface of the film, but I think that is also something that is interesting, that there's many things that you don't really understand and that you can feel frustrated about. But this frustration is also an invitation, and it could be a playful way of inviting to go against it, or to critique on it, or to propose something else. So it's a very open-ended way of creating, I think. And this film could be seen, I think, like a thinking machine that has many different parts and gears that are all working in different ways, because there's very different film material and very different ideas and people contributing. But it's it's not meant to be a closed system. It's meant to be like a little rough and not finished and not readable in every sense.
There was a very nice anecdote about being lost when we were working in the high school, in a sport high school in Helsinki, with the young future Olympic players, football, skaters, even there was a monoski boarder. And then there was a guy, football player, when we made the evaluation, he said, I'm completely lost, because we were intervening with the sound installations in the course of fiction, because in Finland, could you imagine or not, but they have as an obligatory course in curriculum, there is a fiction class. And then we had Rancière, as always, very kindly accepted to be part of this final gathering by Skype or by, it was a Skype. And then there was one of the students who wanted to ask him what is to be, how he could evaluate being lost. And he said, for me, this is the most precious moment in my research. When I'm lost, I know that I'm on the way to find something. And there is so nice end of this story that this young football player was telling me 2 days later in the hall of the school that he was thanking, he said, I want to thank all your group. This is the first time in my life that I could connect being lost with something positive. So he said, this course and your intervention opened so many possibilities. Maybe I will not do any more sport in my life, because from the moment when I saw all these connections that that we could connect sound with image, and then with the fiction course, and then use this kind of open creative process. So that was really very, very, also in this school, the board of educators said that the results and evaluations of students were incredible, about our also crazy proposals that you will see maybe in the next episode of our film, because now we have so many episodes from Finland, which are also very crazy ones, but this is for the next time.
Daniela, you could call Luis if he wants to make a commentary too.
Hello, do you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Now is the perfect opportunity to make my question, because Ivana was talking about the other projects, and I was thinking about the question that we spoke earlier of the linearity of projection in cinema. And Nina was worried in our conversations before the event about the quality of projection, since we are projecting on YouTube. And I was thinking about an example here in Brazil. We had Glauber Rocha, a filmmaker, who made Cidade da Terra with the film rolls not supposed to be projected in a specific order. There were no orders followed.
The projector have to choose the role of the film.
And Kiarostami, the Iranian filmmaker, he made Close-Up, and there's a story that tells that Close-Up was projected wrongly, but he loved it and decided to keep that way. But he lied a lot in the interview, so I don't know if that's
like
true.
many people.
Especially regarding Close-Up, you never know what's true and what is not.
And more recently, there were some types of experiments with Soderbergh. The film was projected online, and it was a possibility to choose from which part you started. And so I wanted to ask you about the projection. Since film has this linearity, how can you defy it, since there's a project to continue and make other films about Rancière?
You may lie if you want.
Oh, about Rancière, no, about our crazy gathering, yes. But I will just say that our projections are very non-linear. I mean, there was one in Helsinki and one in Prague, then one in London, but online. This is one other, which great. I would like to thank Pedro especially for this very exciting moment, because it's so beautiful to see film speaking another language and all the people speaking another. I mean, at the end they are all now accessible in another language. But we are we never organized, even in Brussels, in Paris, the screening. Could you imagine? So this is what we are going to do. But then who knows what we will have as the idea to make these precious, because they're beautiful materials really from Finland, and I think it's worth to show it. But who knows in which form they will be. Maybe just very short things, and then just little episodes, maybe even what students filmed. This is so nice. I don't know, what do you think, Nina, about about this question?
Yeah, well, I think we should go. This film somehow goes against this linearity, but we should never try to abandon it or to let it loose completely, because editing and editing is a way of constructing ideas. An image is never alone. It always talks to the images that are before and after it, and this is something that you cannot that is really at the heart of what the film is. So I would never ever let go of this linear structure. It is something that's very complicated and makes things making films very hard and very complicated, extremely complex. But it is a way of making images speak, as you can see in the way Vertov makes his films. His films are almost like stories told only by images. They are poems of movement and of energy, in which the images are really clashing or rhyming or going against each other, are creating rhythms and themes. So that is that you can see it in our film too. There's also these associations and ways in which the images themselves are speaking to each other, and that is that stays very fascinating.
One question. The book from Rancière makes a discussion with the modernism. Rancière tried to give another term for it, that is aesthetic regime of arts.
Yeah.
So modernism had a kind of temporality linked to teleological vision of time, a temporality linked to the progress. And Rancière, as Daniela said, tried to think modern times. That is the idea that at the same time has many times. And he tries to do that beautifully. For example, in regard of Vertov. In your film, there is the word emancipation. How to think again emancipation in this time?
In our time, you mean?
In our time.
In our time. That was exactly the first ever conference that Rancière gave when we invited him to the post-Yugoslav space, because Modern Times book is a kind of partly, as you know, gathering of the text from this tour. But what is very interesting, Pedro, that he chose, and nothing is never with Rancière by accident. I mean, he's playing like it will be, but it is always very premeditated. So he chose for the very first conference in post-Yugoslav space the title of his intervention, and we will publish that we waited now 10 years or more, but the time came, the moment came. The title was, "Does the time of emancipation is over?" So this is very beautiful title, and also very beautiful conference that he gave in Belgrade and Zagreb in I think 2009 or something like that. And I think that, of course, the emancipation is a question of every moment of our life, and it is opportunity to intervene and to reconfigure this dominant time. And I think the most beautiful in the Rancière, in the landscape of Rancière's work, there are many beautiful examples, but I will say that his PhD book, who had so anecdotal and very difficult trajectory, because no one wanted to accept it on his cathedra. As you know, it is a night of labor, the Proletarian Night book. This is so beautifully also speaking about this coexistence of times, how finally you could make this choreography of I, if you are a parquet worker and you're supposed to look and only in the floor, and then how you could just deviate a little bit your view and gaze, and just open up incredible horizon of possibilities, of reconfigurations and recreations of this dominant, let's say, landscape. So I think this is a very important question and let's say movement of thoughts, of a body of emancipation. We even worked in Brussels Academy of Fine Arts with the students on the movement of emancipation. That was an incredible story about it, but anecdotal for another time. But yeah, we were thinking that it is a very important topic. Maybe Nina, you would like also to add something about it.
No,
not actually.
Thank you for your answer.
Gustavo, Pedro, Daniela, do you have something to add? I think we can.
I have a trick question. I have a trick question because, you know, I was thinking about it because I remembered an article by Ronick. I think you know Ronick. Of course, she's like, I think she's the most translated Brazilian living philosopher. She's translated in Japanese, in German, in everywhere. But she has this, well, not only philosopher, she's also a psychoanalyst. But she has this text called "Nobody is a Deleuzian." Ninguém é Deleuzian. And people usually tend to think of her, but also Peter Pelbart as Deleuzians. But what she says in this text is that since Deleuze is a philosopher that's translating now, that's not exactly what she says, but since he's a philosopher of learn by yourself, I mean, like Rancière in some ways, you cannot be, in a certain sense, Deleuzian, because if you're learning by yourself, you're not being somebody young, you are being yourself. And my trick question has something to do, of course, with the emancipation process, because even someone as Rancière isn't completely emancipated, as you said about the dance of the hands. I am incapable of doing that. And also, there's a very small scene when he's being asked about the soundtrack of modern times and the relation with Sinfonia Dombassa. And he says, I cannot answer, I don't know, but maybe. And then he says, well, my true question is, can anyone be Rancierian? Is it possible to be?
No, I will say that Rancière is just a source, incredible source of inspiration. I'm speaking, of course, for myself. And I'm always very surprised how it is possible to find it in any. I think what is the most inspiring with him, that he's not where you will expect him. And this is this story about the relation and non-relation with his thoughts. And I think it is nice to have someone who is inspiring you in the life. And I think this is my little question. I don't know what Nina will say about this.
Yeah, well, I think it's interesting. It's an interesting thing to be someoneism, to create a someoneism.
It's crazy, isn't it?
Yeah. So I think I wouldn't me myself. I wouldn't call myself Rancièrist, although I have been studying his books and his ideas, and also in the beginning very directly via practice of filming the interventions of PhD in one night, and then slowly becoming more involved. But I think it's also interesting how this you have this book, which is one medium, one way of relating to these ideas, and when it's translated into another language, it becomes something else. And also when he's speaking, it's again something a very different way of thinking. I sometimes personally it's quite hard to follow him, because he's even in different languages, he's talking very quickly, but always going a little bit and then going back on his words, going further, going back. So you're like going on a wave of words and ideas.
It's like an ornament, I think.
Yes.
Like weaving.
Yeah. And it's true that even though the Ignorant Master is an idea is a book in which the idea of the absence of a master is at the core, but still a book can be a master too, is a master in a way. So we have to also find ways to relate to that, and don't put it too much on a piedestal, but to keep it alive and keep it in a
process, I think.
Dialogue.
I think your movie has this quality, because it shows everything in process, in work. It's a work in process, which is a very, by the way, Aristotelian thing to do, because the word energy, Aristotle uses that as energia, which is something in work. It's a work in progress. And I think maybe the image that you managed to communicate is that this emancipation process is something always in work, for little children, for people in the Taksim Square, for us, but also for Jacques Rancière, or for the big names or everything. That's the hierarchizing. I mean, that's the communism of the
sensible,
of the sensible, the activities like in Vertov, I think.
Communism of sensible, but also I think that it's a very interesting moment. Rancière is there sometimes just to prove that radical equality exists. So this is also we had very difficult choice which moments to use from all many episodes and many gatherings and the friendship moments that we developed with him at the end. But he's really someone proving that equality and this dehierarchization process could exist. So this is something also very exciting from my point. This is always, we need him to show that we don't need him somehow. And he's also aware of this moment. And I think that there is this dialectical turn, which is very important. Because if we just say, okay, we get rid of the this source of inspiration, then we cannot also share so many beautiful moments where also him is emancipating from this incapability to dance, for example, with hands, etc. So there are many interesting moments how all his ideas finally, like this moment here. For me, this moment that you produced and we are all producing is a kind of new common, this egalitarian, this sensorium that, and I think that in the next field, if there is anything which will follow, I think this will be part of it for me personally, this little talk with you now, because I know that Erdem Gunduz, I think that he's also watching us. He's somewhere there now. He's not now in Turkey. He's now living in Standing Man. He's now living in Poland. There are many different people and expectable moments, gatherings, and I think this is very precious with this kind of ideas that Rancière is developing. And I could say that I'm very happy that finally we met, that I contacted Pedro Husak one day, that we met in Brazil. I mean, for me, also connection that this is very funny how Brazil works in Rancière's life and work, so important place. And this is also very interesting that we are today here, and also that we were translated by Pedro, who is also a physician, but also philosopher and pianist. And the other Pedro is teaching aesthetic on the agronomy, faculty of agronomy. So which is next great source of inspiration, because we are also making, just to say, in October with Rancière, Guerrilla University in Vienna, with Rojava University, with Kurdish University on the Free Temporary Territory. And the topic is gardening and unlearning. So I'm really inviting you all to be somehow part of our program. I could share with you what we are going to do 10 days there. And there are many associated universities or groups who would like to work on these ideas, gardening and unlearning. And then at the end, Rancière will be with us at the end to comment and to see all these creations that we are going to be created. So yeah, I think that it's a nice moment also to say that there is something very soon that we are going to organize in Austria, but with Oslo, Helsinki, London, South Bank University, London, then Rojava University, of course, Belgrade University of Arts, and then Vienna. We are going to be in Vienna for some days, 10 days. So this is what I wanted to invite you. Really, very. I'm happy to invite all who are watching us and you especially to this adventure, to the following adventure. Next.
Well, Daniela, Gustavo, do you want to make last commentaries?
I want to make just a brief share, something that I was thinking. Ivana spoke when I made the question about the time, that somehow this encounter here is a continuity of the film, and I will say that your film made a continuation of the book of Rancière, and now we are making a continuation of both of these. And I remembered that in some book of Rancière about cinema, he tells that cinema is not just the films we saw, it's not just the movie theater, but it's also the movie that keeps going on our mind and the movements and creations we make about that films, because we also remember things that are not there. And just that, I think it's a continuation of his thought in some way.
Le temps d'après, oui, ça c'est aussi le titre, le temps d'après, il y a aussi... Yeah, this is really very nice comment. I think this is what I feel now. I feel very that we are in these continuations of continuations. Nina, do you have something?
Yeah. No, it's a very, very beautiful remark.
On YouTube, Professor Leda Tenório da Mota said, "Thanks for remembering me of Godard and Godard's sense of editing." So that's for the filmmakers.
Oh, this is for all Nina. Great. I will say that I was showing this film to someone who is critique of film and connected with Cahiers de Cinéma, etc. And that this is maybe the most beautiful comment. And this person is really only critique. I mean, not making a film, but critique. And this person said, this film gave me the desire to make a film. And this is what Gustavo also said. I mean, this is opening really the field of that everyone finally create and could create. And I hope really that this is most precious maybe thing which comes out from it.
Gustavo?
Yes, some little comments. Forgive me for my bad English. I was wondering if in a moment you thought about how can we use our emptiness, something like this. And I think that's the quest for the common. And a Rancière idea that comes from that, which Pedro Sack pointed, is something like the temporalities, the temporality of the children, the temporality of art, the temporality of emancipation. And I was wondering if this emptiness and these temporalities could dialogue with other French philosophers. I don't know if you guys are inspired in any kind of reading. It's Alain Badiou, because he says that we need to cultivate in a way this emptiness so that we can be aware of what happens, of the event, so that what appears can be noticed. So it's a kind of partage de sensible. And if in a Rancièrean way we can talk about temporalities, I think that Badiou would talk about the composability of words. I think that even you've made a film with Godardian montage with many experiments, but we can bring some issues like a dialogue between the partage de sensible from Rancière and this openness in face of the event with Badiou. I know it just came in my mind, this relation with Badiou.
You know, our publishing little Samizdat house who invited Rancière invited also Badiou on this post-Yugoslav tour. But Rancière, of course, achieved what he promised. Not really Badiou. He came on the half of the tour, but this is a little difference between two men. But I want to say that for me personally, I don't know, for Nina, their thoughts were very both inspired for me, and they were very complementary. And even I made interview with Rancière asking him, is it this what could be little thing in common between them? This is maybe for our internal talk to tell you to show you this interview, because I have in the car we were filming Rancière speaking about Badiou, which was very funny moment. But I would like just to say that for me there are really this what Nina also and me worked on a little continuation. We will show you there is 7-minute film, which is a kind of a mirror of this film that we show now, which is called, up to the Badiou's title, Habité non habitable. In the book, Could We Think Politics? Or what is the to be Marxist in today? There is this beautiful idea for me, how to inhabit non-inhabitable. And Nina, now I think that we always have maybe to show also our little 7-8 minutes, because it is a kind of really also for me very beautiful resume with Badiou's title completely. And this is what I will say, that there is really for me this idea of emptiness, which in Badiou's term will be always filled with the ideas somehow. And I think that for Rancière there is this kind of my English sometimes it's very complicated, but there is this variety of possibilities, and then, as you said, as you will say, compossibilities. So there are many moments, of course, where their thoughts will could be they are very let's say correlate for me. And of course, I think that they think both that. I mean, this is maybe on very grandiose way, but you said, as you know, finally, I don't have anything against Rancière to say. This is very funny how he said, we accepted Rancière at the end. You know very well, this is it was for the seminary about Rancière. This also very nice text of Badiou about Rancière. But for Rancière, I think that there is always the thought that he was doing things on another scale. That there is some kind of another scale in Badiou's thinking of, even when we have to fulfill something, it will be always with something grandiose. And I think that with what personally I found very interesting and very also realizable, that you could really realize, it's these micro interventions that Rancière proposed. And I think this will be something where he will stay this in these terms, like a source, unpredictable and timeless source of inspiration, because micro interventions everyone could really rethink and try to put in practice. Grandiose revolutionary turnouts are a little bit more difficult, but still I think that both of them are really the same I mean, I consider them the same family, and for me personally, a very big source of inspiration. Both have been, and by the way, I knew from Rancière from Badiou's writings. This is not a secret. I always we joke with Rancière. He said, "How it is possible? This is possible." I mean, I was following Badiou's seminaries in the moment of the war in Yugoslavia. And I was already in exile in Belgium, and his seminaries were the only place in I will not say in the world, but in some part of the world where you could hear the world, the revolution, communism, Bolshevik, etc. So in Jussieu, in the big amphitheater for 350 people, that was also kind of sensorium, egalitarian or non-egalitarian sensorium. He was in the middle, like the big actor. He's a very talented actor, as you know. But it was a very important, let's say, space and time to share with all those people. So this is my comment. I don't know if Nina is inspired by Badiou at all. I don't know how it is your...
I don't know him that well. So I couldn't add anything. But this film, Inhabiting the Uninhabitable, is online on the website of PhD in One Night. So you can.
Yes, I will share with the group. Yeah, and for the others, yeah, they could find it. Yeah, thank you to remind it. That's true. We put it very recently on many of our things online. Yeah. Yeah, watch this little film. I think there are some other ideas, very, very funny ones in this one also.
Right. Well, I think we can finish.
Yes,
yes.
Let's say that it's just a little transitory moment. This
Yes.
We can pause.
Yes.
We can pause. Yes.
Yes. But thank you so much, really.
Nina, Ivana, thank you very much for this moment, for sharing this for us. This was wonderful. Thank you.
Yeah, for us also. For me personally, it was really this time, sharing of time, and this distance, as Daniela said, the community of distances, but so close and distant at the same time. That was beautiful. Thank you all.
Yes.
Thank you, really. Name of all our group, some of them are watching now, from Brussels, from Zagreb, from Helsinki. Thank you very much. And see you very soon. See you very soon.
Our pleasure. Thank you.
Yeah,
thank you.
Bye.
Vou terminar.
Let's do our dance of hands.
Yes, dance of hands. This is.
Tá. Então a gente termina aqui em português. Mando um abraço para todos. Espero que vocês tenham gostado.